Okay. So imagine this. It's the summer of 1994. Michael Jordan is literally the most famous athlete on the planet. He just won his third straight NBA championship. He could do anything he wants. And what does he do? He shows up to spring training for a minor league baseball team in Birmingham, Alabama. No guarantees, no safety net. Just a guy in his 30s trying to learn how to hit a curveball for the first time in his life. And everybody's laughing. The media is laughing. Other players are laughing. Even some of his own teammates don't quite know what to make of it. But here's the thing nobody talks about. His dad had just been murdered 3 months earlier, and his dad, James Jordan, had always told him that his real sport was baseball. So maybe this wasn't a weird career move. Maybe this was a son trying to do one last thing for his father. And that changes everything about how you look at that year. So let's back up a little bit. Because to understand why Michael Jordan did what he did in 1994, you have to understand who James Jordan was and what he meant to his son. James Jordan was not a famous man. He worked for General Electric in Wilmington, North Carolina. He was a mechanic, a family man, the kind of a guy who coached his kids' little league teams and showed up to every game and genuinely believed that being present for your children was the most important thing a father could do. And from very early on, James Jordan had two convictions about his son, Michael. One was that Michael was going to be something special in sports. And two, and this is the part people forget, James always thought Michael's best. Sport was baseball, not basketball. Baseball. Michael had been a good baseball player as a kid in North Carolina, a really good one, actually. James used to tell people that if Michael had focused on baseball instead of basketball, he could have made it to the majors. And Michael heard that his whole life, his dad believed it. And whether or not it was true, it was something Michael carried with him all the way through his basketball career. Now fast forward to July 1993. Michael Jordan has just won his third consecutive NBA championship with the Chicago Bulls. He's 30 years old. He's at the absolute peak of his powers. And on July 23rd, his father, James Jordan, is driving home through North Carolina and pulls over to the side of the road to take a nap. Two men find him there and shoot him. They steal his car. James Jordan's body isn't discovered for 11 days when it finally is identified. Michael Jordan is at a golf tournament and gets the call there. He's 30 years old, and his father, his best friend, the man who believed in him before anyone else did, is gone just like that. No warning. No chance to say goodbye. Just a phone call at a golf course. And here's what I think about when I think about that moment. Michael Jordan had spent his entire career performing for people, for crowds, for cameras, for the whole world. But the one person he was always really performing for, the person whose opinion mattered most, whose presence at games meant the most, was James. James Jordan used to sit courtside at Bulls games when he could. Michael would look for him. Teammates noticed it. And now that person was gone, and Michael Jordan had to figure out what any of this meant without him there to see it. He announced his retirement from basketball in October 1993. He was 30 years old. He said he had nothing left to prove. The media went absolutely crazy trying to explain it. Some people said he was tired of the pressure. Some people said there were gambling issues, and the NBA had quietly pushed him out. There were all kinds of theories. But Michael Jordan himself said something much simpler. He said he had lost his motivation, that the person who had inspired him most was gone, and that he wanted to try something his father had always believed he could do. So he signed a minor league contract with the Chicago White Sox in February 1994 and was assigned to the Birmingham Barons, their Double-A affiliate. And I want you to think about what that actually means for a second. Double-A baseball is not a casual recreational league. These are professional athletes who have been playing baseball their entire lives, who were drafted out of high school or college specifically because scouts identified them as having major league potential. And Michael Jordan, who hadn't played competitive baseball since high school, who was 31 years old, who had been playing basketball at the highest level in the world, was walking into that environment and trying to compete. That takes a specific kind of courage that I don't think gets talked about enough, because Michael Jordan was used to being the best. And in Birmingham in 1994, he was not the best, not even close. And he knew it before he started, and he did it anyway. I grew up watching Jordan play. I remember being a kid in New York, and the whole city stopping when the Bulls were on. Jordan was not just a basketball player to my generation. He was this of what human excellence looked like. This proof that a person could will themselves to a level of performance that other people simply couldn't reach. And then watching him show up to a minor league ballpark in Alabama and go 0 for 3 on a Tuesday afternoon in front of 4,000 people. There was something about that was genuinely moving to me even then. Not sad. Moving, because it was so clearly not about winning. It was about something else entirely. The numbers from that season are honest. He hit .202 in 127 games with 3 home runs and 51 RBIs. He struck out 114 times. He had trouble with breaking balls, curveballs, and sliders that dipped out of the zone, which is the same thing that gives every hitter trouble when they first encounter professional pitching, and which gets exponentially harder when you're learning it at 31 instead of 21. His outfield defense was actually pretty solid. He had the athleticism and the work ethic, and he put in the time, but the bat was a genuine struggle for most of the season. But here's what the stat line doesn't show. Every single game the Birmingham Barons played that year drew a crowd. Not because people wanted to see the Barons, because people wanted to see Michael Jordan try. The team averaged around 4,000 fans a game before Jordan arrived. With Jordan, they were drawing 10, 12, 15,000. They had to move some home games to larger stadiums because the demand was so far beyond what their ballpark could hold. And everywhere they went on the road, it was the same thing. People who had never been to a minor league baseball game in their lives were showing up to watch Michael Jordan strike out against a 22-year-old pitcher from Oklahoma. And there was something genuinely beautiful about that, actually. Sports at its most human. Not the perfection of the NBA Finals, not the third championship trophy, but a great man doing something hard and imperfect in front of people who just wanted to watch him try. His teammates on the Barons talked about him later, and what they described was not a celebrity who showed up and collected a paycheck. Described a guy who was first to arrive at the ballpark and last to leave, who took extra batting practice until his hands bled, who asked questions constantly about pitch recognition, about positioning, about the mental side of hitting. His teammate and fellow outfielder Kenny Harris said that Jordan worked harder than anyone else on the team, and that if he had started playing baseball seriously at 18 instead of 31, the scouts who said he could have made the majors were probably right. That's not a consolation prize assessment. That's a real baseball opinion from someone who played alongside him every day. And then there was the moment that I think captures the whole year better than any statistic. Late in the 1994 season, the Barons were playing a road game, and Jordan came up in a crucial situation and hit a ball that looked for a second like it was going to be a home run. The crowd, a road crowd, not his home fans, rose to its feet, and the ball died at the warning track. He was thrown out at second, trying to stretch it into a double, and he jogged back to the dugout, sat down, said nothing, and watched the rest of the inning. No drama, no frustration visible on his face. Just a man doing the work and accepting the result and coming back the next day to do it again. I think his father would have recognized that. I think James Jordan would have watched that at-bat and felt exactly what he had always felt watching his son. That whatever this kid was doing, he was doing it completely. No shortcuts, no half measures, all the way in. He played in the Arizona Fall League after the season ended. And then in spring training in 1995, the Major League Baseball players went on strike, and Jordan was faced with the possibility of being used as a replacement player. He refused. He said he supported the union, and he wasn't going to cross a picket line. And with that, the baseball experiment was effectively over. Scottie Pippen called him. The Bulls called him. In March 1995, Jordan sent a 2-word fax to the world. I'm back. And 3 months later, he was playing in the NBA again. And within 2 years, he had won 3 more championships. But here's what I keep coming back to. When Michael Jordan announced his baseball retirement and his return to basketball, he did a press conference, and someone asked him about the year in Birmingham, and he said, and this is close to a direct quote, that it was one of the best years of his life. Not one of the most successful. One of the best, a year where he hit .202 and struck out 114 times in front of crowds who came partly to watch him fail, and he called it one of the best years of his life. Because he was doing something his father believed he could do. in a place where nobody expected perfection from him, in a game that humbled him in ways basketball never had. And I think that humility, that willingness to be seen struggling, to be seen as ordinary, to show up every day and do the work without any guarantee of the result, was Michael Jordan's way of grieving, his way of honoring the man who had always seen him most clearly. James Jordan had told his son he was a baseball player, and for 1 year Michael Jordan became one. Not a great one, but a real one, and maybe that was exactly the point. If you want more stories like this, the real human stuff behind the legends, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me who you want me to cover. Next, I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.